1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people. All right. Who am I missing? So just for the recording, you guys, hi, it's Professor Fernandez and Mikha Mitchell. We are going to do an MLA review, but I wanted to do a Kahoot game right quick to talk about the top 10 things that you guys missed on the essay. All right, so let's start. What pronoun do you use for Kyle Quinn, one of the TED speakers? Okay, so let's talk about pronouns. All right, so back in the day, when I was going to school, you can just say he, him, his, hers, right? Everything was great. But right now, and rightfully so, you don't know how a person's going to identify. You never know how a person's going to identify. They could be presenting one thing and identify something else. They perhaps present as a male, but prefer to use they, them pronouns. You don't know Kyle Quinn. Ain't nobody here knows Kyle Quinn. We don't know what his pronouns are. So if we don't know what his pronouns are, then let's go ahead and just use his last name. Make sense? Yes? No? I'm going to say yes. You guys are.
Yeah.
Thank you. Because I can't see things. But so that's just one thing that I kind of saw. And it wasn't that it was wrong. It's just that I looked at it and I'm like, I don't know if Kyle Quinn uses they, them pronouns. It doesn't say anywhere. We're just assuming that he's going to use he, him. So let's go ahead and be respectful of people's pronouns. Okay. Adolfo got it right. Hey. Okay. Next. Good job, guys. Yes, you summarized the video in the second paragraph. I got a lot of essays where there was 2 paragraphs worth of summary, and there only needed to be 1 paragraph and a short one summary. Good job. Hey, Adolfo's in the lead, but Jen is coming up, y'all. Let's go. How do you spell that organization? Good job. So TED is spelled with a capital T-E-D. So I got a lot of variations of this, right? So the lesson here is that you want to actually look at how people are spelling their organizations and their names. Regular convention will say, well, it's TED is like a name, right? It's capital T-E-D, lowercase, right? But they capitalize all 3 of their letters. So it is a proper noun. So you've got to look how it's done properly. Okay.
It's an abbreviation. I don't know if he's mentioned that.
It's also what?
An abbreviation.
It is an abbreviation. Do you happen to know what that abbreviation is?
Capitalized.
I'm sorry?
That's why it's all capitalized.
You know, it's an abbreviation and they don't use periods. I noticed that, which is kind of weird because usually with an abbreviation, you want to use periods, but it's weird. TED's weird, man, but they're really good. So it is what it is. All right, Adolfo's still in the lead, but Liv is coming up. Liv is right on your coattails, Adolfo. Watch out. All right. What's wrong with this sentence? Oh, y'all are good. Y'all are good. Yes, very, a lot. And get/got. Bad words used. The empty calories of the English language. Y'all know why. Okay. Adolfo's still in the lead, but Liv, you're getting there. You're coming up, girl. Or you. All right. If I wrote useless word on your paper, that means what? Very good. So those four words, very, a lot, get, or got, are the empty calories of the English language. Like they don't really say very many things. Haha, very many things. They don't say what you think it means, right? If you say very surprised, what's more surprised than surprised, right? So you can say shocked or astonished. And we're college now, so we need to use words. Okay. All right. Woohoo! Living Adolfo. Anna coming around the bend. All right, number 6. Why would using the word utilize not be a good idea?
It's one of my least favorite words.
I know. Mine too. This one's tricky. Kind of tricky. Ooh, let's talk about it. The word utilize. Y'all love this word. I don't know who taught y'all this word, but please unlearn it. So the answer is, why use this long word when you can use the word use? Now, I know that you guys think that utilize sounds very like proper. It doesn't really. There are some words that sound better than others, that sound very proper. And when you're looking at tone in a piece, you probably should use. Utilize isn't at all, mostly because it means use and it's a shorter word. So, what the whole point of writing and the whole point of putting together writing, there's lots of points. But number one is clarity. You want to make it clear. You don't want to have any ambiguity on what you mean and what you're trying to write. Utilize sounds pretentious. It doesn't sound very literally user friendly. It sounds like one of those words that you look up in the thesaurus and you're like, that sounds really good, and you pop it in there. And really, you don't really need to use it. You can just use the word use and it has the exact same effect. It's shorter and it's clear and it gets to the point quicker. Make sense? Also, I hate that word. All this plus I hate that word. There's lots of words, but like the journalist in me just can't deal with it. Okay, moving on. Ooh! And Anna takes the lead. Hey, good job, Anna. Adolfo's still in striking distance. If you're writing the abbreviation to the words United States, which one is correct? Yes. Okay. So this is different from the TED conversation, right? TED is actually an abbreviation for something that we don't quite know off the top of our heads, but I'm sure we can Google it. However, in their name, they don't use the abbreviations, the actual periods between the words for making an abbreviation. So that is how they spell their name. So you got to keep it that way. However, the US is an abbreviation for United States. So whenever you have an abbreviation, you want to put periods. So U period S period is an abbreviation for United States. And if you don't use the abbreviation, what does it mean? It means you literally capitalize the word us. That's exactly what that means. And so this I saw a lot of issues with. All right, Anna's keeping the lead. Adolfo's right there, but on your heels, Adolfo, is Liv. Mm-hmm. We got 2 more questions. Let's see if you guys can answer this one. Ah, you guys are so good. So the folks who needed to know this aren't in this lesson, in this class right now, I can totally tell. So this is what I saw a lot of, that especially for Elizabeth Loftus video, everyone was calling her Elizabeth. I'm like, Elizabeth don't know you. You better put some respect on her name. So you use her last name or you use their last name. Because you don't know them. Is it okay to use Miss, Mr., all those things? Not unless you work for the New York Times, because that's what they do. So just use their last names. You just have to introduce them the first time by their first your full name, and then every time after that, when you talk about them, use their last name. Anna holding the lead. All right. The name of the video and the person talking in the video belong in which paragraph? Okay, so this one's a little confusing, right? So you want this in the introductory paragraph, right? Because the introductory paragraph, what it does is it literally introduces the entire essay to the reader. And one of the things that you want to do when you introduce things to the reader is kind of give them context. This is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about this video by this person. So you want to put that in the introductory paragraph first. So that way you get that in there, it's out the way. Then you can use the last name of the person for the rest of the essay. So I saw a lot of confusion on this as well. So you want to do this in the introductory paragraph. This is going to be the same rule that you use for your compare and contrast essay, by the way. So you want to get those nuts and bolts things that introduces the essay and things that the reader needs to know to understand, like kind of the context stuff, right on top, right in the introduction, and then you keep going. Also, write the introduction last. That's like the best tip. Write it last, because you may not know what you're writing until you're done writing the body paragraphs, and then you're like, oh, this is what I'm going to write. Then you come back to the intro and write it.
Professor Fernandez?
Yes.
Linda has a question. Her hand's up.
Okay. What's your question?
You said that in the introduction paragraph for the compare and contrast essay, we would have to put the person's, I forgot what the question said, but the name and everything. But if we're using multiple sources within that essay, how would we do that?
So it depends. You have two options for the compare and contrast essay, right? You have either you're going to talk about Asia McClain and whether you think she's a liar or not, or you're going to compare two things with Jay Wilde's two testimonies. So say you're going to use the two of the testimonies of Jay Wilde, maybe like the testimony, I think if I remember correctly, the testimony from the trial and the testimony or what he said in the Intercept article. So you could say something like, there are similarities and differences in what Jay has said in the past, for instance, in his testimony in the trial, and what he has said to the Intercept in name the article. Make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So you can name them there. You can use it in 2 sentences. You can name them within 2 sentences, right? Because it's technically not part of your thesis quite yet. because you're still kind of introducing it, and your thesis is like at the end of that paragraph, the intro paragraph. So that's how I would do it. Same with Asian.
So are we paraphrasing our prompt?
Mm-mm. You're not paraphrasing your prompt.
No.
Not at all.
Okay.
What you are doing, and this is why you got to write it last. You are kind of saying to the reader, all right, so this is what I'm believing. This is what I think. This is how I'm kind of introducing these ideas to you. I got these from these two main articles, like the primary sources, right? Because you can have secondary sources. So your primary sources, thesis. This is why I think he's lying. 1, 2, 3. Or this is why I think he's telling the truth. 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to compare and contrast this thing, and then run with it. I know that probably is probably as clear as mud right now because you've got an overview of the essay. Next week, you actually have like an actual, like, there's a video just for the structure, and then there's a video just for the thesis. So in the overview, you're like, I have no idea what that means. But when you get the more specific videos, you're like, oh, I know what that means now. So when you see this over, it'll make perfect sense.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. I hope that was helpful. I know it's clear as mud. I'm so sorry. Email me next week if it's still dirty and disgusting and not as clear, and then we will talk about it. Make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. And we have one more question. What pronoun should you have used to refer to Elizabeth Loftus, the TED speaker? Good. You guys are learning. Good job. And in third place, we have Liv. In second place, we have Adolfo, which means first place goes to... Oh, wow, this is dramatic. Anna! Wow, this is real. Kahoot got dramatic. All right. Good job, guys. Good job. So I hope that was helpful to you. Did it stop sharing? There it is. Okay. This is driving me crazy. All right. Okay.
So quick question. Quick question. So on the compare and contrast essay with the he and the him and so forth, are we going to be able to say that about Asia and Jay using he and him, or do we refrain from that completely?
I would just use their last names.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I wouldn't use their last names.
Okay.
Yeah. Especially there should be a lesson next week or the week after talking about apostrophes. Wilds, this is last name with an S. And so when you're talking about Wilds' testimony, there's an apostrophe on the S, on the last S. You can do apostrophe S, so 2 S's. That's actually correct. But you can just do just an apostrophe. It's a weird English thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Nobody asked me. I was not around. My ancestors weren't around. So I can't tell you why this is correct, but it is correct. All right. You guys ready to get into some MLA?
Yes.
Yes. I was supposed to be like, I've been waiting. He is ready. All right, Mikha, take it away.
All right. Well, good afternoon. I apologize. I'm wearing a mask today. I'm actually on campus and I'm hiding out in my office because we are basically setting up and getting ready to offer some face-to-face services. It will be by appointment only. So while I'm here, I am going to have to keep the mask on. So just let me know if you can't hear me, if I need to repeat anything or whatnot. So the first thing I am going to do is share my content with you guys. And here we go. Okay. So I am also, well, I was hoping I could see the chat, but it doesn't look like it's going to give me that tool. So I apologize for that. Just kind of keep me.
I can keep an eye out.
Please do. All right, so the first thing I want to highlight is on the Kingwood Library website. So you would just go to the libraries and then scroll down. There's going to be a section called Libraries. You just click on Kingwood. And on our page, we've got MLA style help. So it's a full guide, and we have a lot of different resources, including videos on how to, that I've recorded on how to cite a book or an article from the web or an article from our databases. So we've got videos, we've got documents that you can download, and we also break it all up for you. So there's a ton of different stuff. And there's a worksheet if you like to really break it down. So and it's a good place to start off, just so that you can manually go through and do that checklist. So the thing I do want to highlight to start off with is, why is this necessary? Why do we cite information? What do you guys think?
So people can know where we got it from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So we don't want to turn into Katy Perry, who got sued for stealing a song or uncreatively reproducing it, you could say. So basically, we want to give credit to the people who originated that idea. And by doing that, the first thing we're going to include in our, think of an MLA citation like a paragraph. And some of the elements that are most important will be maybe just a name, and it's going to end with it's going to be a sentence. Think of it that way. So our first most important bit is the author. So we will have it last name, comma, first name, and then a period. So the person who created it, think of it like a Russian doll set, and we've got a little tiny doll in the center. That is the person who created it. Then the second sentence is going to be the title of the source. So if we're talking about an article, that's the title of the article. If we're talking about a book, then it's the name of the book. Or we're using Google Maps. That could be another source, right? So, but it's not the maps itself. It's the location we're looking at, right? So it just depends on what the source is. Something very nuanced is if it's an article or a chapter, it's being housed in something bigger, or say it's part of a website. It's going to be housed in something bigger, so it's going to be in quotation marks. If it's an entity unto itself, like a book, like you're reading a whole book, the book itself is going to be its own house. So think of it like the nursery rhyme of the crooked old man in the crooked old house. So it's going to be italicized. Then we get into the place where Professor Fernandez will only allow you to have a run-on sentence.
Yes.
And so we call it the container because it houses a lot of different little pieces, but really it's about where it's our cookie trail to find the source. Okay, and so typically it's going to be coming from like a newspaper or a journal, or maybe it's a chapter from a book. Also, it's going to be, so say I'm citing the second episode of the podcast, the title of the container is podcast, which is what podcast are you guys listening to?
Cereal.
Cereal. So the name of the specific episode would be the title of the source, and then the title of the container where it's being housed is Cereal itself. It's part of that podcast series, okay? So sometimes you'll have another contributor. So maybe it's an author, or if it's a graphic novel, it could be the illustrator. So it really depends. Version, when we talk about version, it's like your textbooks may have multiple editions, and you've got the latest one, which is the 11th edition of some Norton book, right? You would put that in because the second edition may not have the same content as the 11th edition. And in this day and age, you would probably put a podcast because we're not talking about a book. We're actually talking about a podcast or an ebook. So it's just talking about the format. And then number is like classic style, volume and issue number of a book, of a magazine or a newspaper. But we're also talking about season and episode. So we've got for Serial, the one that you're listening to is the first season, right? And then you can be really specific if you're citing episode 1, right? So that can vary. And all of these have a comma after it because we're talking about that cookie trail of where I'm going to go to find it. So sometimes you'll have a publisher. More often than not, it's just for a book. Then you have publication date, which will be broken down by day, then an abbreviated version of the month. So October is OCT period, and then the year. And you have to type out the full year. You can't do 20. You have to do 2020. All of these have a comma. Then our last bit is location. So if it's a book, you're typically going to have a page or a page range. DOI is a scholarly articles ISBN number. So it's an easy way to track it, or it can be a link. The thing that you're going to get rid of with the link is that HTTP part, just because it's ugly. So that's sort of the basic. And then say I'm watching the Umbrella Academy and I'm citing it. Where am I watching the Umbrella Academy? And that was the first example that popped into my head because my colleague had just talked about it with me. What streaming service is it on?
Netflix.
Netflix, okay. So I'm talking maybe specifically about one episode and whatever the name of the episode and the director. The container would be talking about the Umbrella Academy and when it was released and all that. But then I would have a second container because the series is housed in Netflix. I can't get it anywhere else. So we would repeat the container again with just maybe some of the information. Just so you know, if you don't have some of these bits for your source, you get to skip it. You just move on to that next section, that next element that you do have. But just remember that if it's part of the container, it has a comma until that last bit of the container, which will have a period to close it out. Does that make sense? Have I totally confused you?
Just a little.
Just a little, okay. We're gonna practice now. You guys ready for this? Let me Let me cancel the screen sharing for a quick moment. And oh goodness, I've got 3 screens up and it's confusing me. Okay, so I'm going to give you a book. And I'm going to give you a moment to find it as well. So let me get back here and in the chat. So log in using your My Lone Star username and password or your library card number. And let's see how we would cite this. And I want to practice first starting off with a simple, let's imagine this is a real book, and then we'll go from there. Okay. And there we go. Let's see if it'll do this. Okay. Is everybody on this page? I'll give you a few more seconds.
And I just want to put out as a reminder that like all the information is fair game to evaluate for a potential source for your research log.
I like to practice with relevant things.
I mean, I saw the title and I'm just like, yes.
All right, I'm going to assume everybody is here. Excuse me. I've got like mask fluff bunnies irritating my nose and like now my vocal cords. So who is the author of this book? Who's the first one?
Peter White.
Peter White. Yes, correct. So here's my first like special tip. When you have more than 2 people who are authors, we get to cheat in MLA style. I love it. We can just say, and everybody. So we'll list the first person and none of the other people really matter after that because there's way too many. So we would have, how would we put this together? I'll jump to this one. So we're going to use the last name, comma, first name. So I'm just going to copy this over to my little Word document here. Hello, reconnect, please. All right. So I've got White. I'm just going to drag and drop it. Peter C. Okay. I'm going to have a comma. And the Latin word for and everybody, because for whatever reason, we still have to use Latin language. It's going to be et al. Okay, so ETAL, and that's going to end my author list. Okay. So what's the title of the book?
Isn't it Crime Scene Court, the Essentials of Forensic Science?
You got it. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to jump over to my documents, add a space, and I'm going to be really lazy and just paste it in. Now it does this funky thing where the colon has this extra space. That is just librarian nonsense in the coding that you don't have to worry about, but just get rid of that space. And fortunately, Word is trying to tell me that that's happening. Okay, so going back to my little cheat sheet, there are a couple of things I need to do. Can you guys recognize what they are?
Quotations.
Well, it's a book.
Oh yeah.
Do we need to have it in quotations, or what do you think?
No quotations.
No quotations. Okay, what do we do instead?
We add a period at the end.
You add a period at the end. Yep. And it's going to be in italics. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to add that period, like you said, and a space so we can start the container. And I'm going to go up here to my toolbar and just click on italics. And there we have it. Fortunately, it's all capitalized, all the proper terms. But if it's not, just make sure you're capitalizing everything but the Professor Fernandez, I'm forgetting the word.
Articles.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that. So the articles like of and to, you just leave in lowercase. All right, so now we're going to start on the container. So this is information about the book itself. Let's take a look and see. What's great about it is it's all here on the right-hand side, just as a quick sheet. Okay, so we've got the title, we've got the subtitle, that doesn't matter. We have an editor, which is fine for if we're just talking about the book. We can ignore that. So we're going to pretend this is a print book. So we're going to skip over. Nope. I lie. Look at this. We've got a second edition. So if it was just the first edition, who cares? Move on. But if it's the second or higher, we always want to list that. So I'm going to type in 2, and we abbreviate edition, so it's ed. And because it's an abbreviation, there's going to be a period and then a comma. That's it. We don't put second, it's just 2, because why add extra stuff, right? So let's see what else we have. We've got the publisher. So I'm going to just copy that, and you'll notice that we've got the version. There isn't a number, right? It's not a multi-volume book. So we're going to do the publisher next. And I'm going to paste that in. Royal Society of Chemistry. I'm going to add another comma. And then we're going to do publication date. And so for a book, typically you won't see like the day and month. So we can add that, but just know that you won't usually find that in the copyright section of the book, the back of the title page. Okay. So it's the 19th of July, right? So July is one of those special months where there's only 4 letters in it, and you don't really have to abbreviate that. So did I say the 19th? I did. Okay. So 19 July 2004. Now, if it's a physical book, do I have a physical book here? Yes. Okay, so if it's a physical book, the location is just on my bookshelf. We don't care about that, right? So we can leave that out. And it's going to look like this. So White, Peter, and everybody. Crime scene to court, the essential of forensic science. That's the second element. And then the container is second edition, Royal Society of Chemistry. And it was published on the 19th of July, 2004. How are we with that? Okay.
It's good.
Okay. So we're going to do a couple more things here. Now we're going to say it's an ebook. So based on this, we can do a couple of things. It's being housed in our ProQuest ebook central database. So we would have a second container. And because it's an ebook, we could also put in version in the first container that it is an ebook. So let me go back to my document. I've got second edition, comma, ebook, comma, and that's all I have to put for that container. But for that second container, I'm going to do the title of the container, which is the name of the database. And the only other thing we need to add is the location. So it's the URL. Okay. So in here, I've got ProQuest eBook Central. That's what I'm going to name it. And then we're going to find the permanent link. And the reason why we have to look for the permanent link is this URL in our address bar will never take us back, because remember, you had to log in to the database to view it. If you don't, it's going to take you to a dead page. So we want the permanent link. So we click on share link to book and copy this one, which is what I gave you guys. All right. So I'm going to do and there we go. Okay, so a couple of things. See how I made it a hyperlink? That is a courtesy, I think, is the best thing you could do to make it an easy cookie trail for Professor Fernandez to go and just quickly click on that and find the article. That would be a nice thing to do. I'm going to end that with a period. So that closes out that second container. There's a couple of things I need to do. So let's look back on here. We've got the title of the container. Oh, excuse me. What do I need to do?
Yeah. Put it in italics?
You got it. Okay, so I'm going to do that. And then for the location, there was something we have to do with the link. What is it? In addition to getting the permanent link.
Taking off the HTTP?
You got it. So I already pasted it in and made sure it was hyperlinked. And then I go in and delete that so that I keep the hyperlink working. So that's my little cheat for that. So last couple of things, I'm going to highlight this. And we need to have it in Times New Roman. Is it size 11 or 12 font?
12.
You got it. Okay. So I have that. And let me, oh goodness, excuse me. Oh, no. I'm going to go into this little box with an arrow icon in the paragraph section. And I'm going to change the line spacing so it's double spaced. And then under indentation, I want to make sure it is hanging. And I don't want any extra spacing added after the paragraph, so after that citation. So it's 0 points, hanging indentation by ½ inch. We want that, and I'm going to click OK. So the most important piece of that puzzle is sticking out, and that's the author. Does that make sense, guys?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Professor Fernandez, I'm noticing that it's almost 4 o'clock. Are we committed to the 4 o'clock timeline, or should I continue a little bit more?
You can keep going. You can go all day if you'd like. It just depends on the students. So do you guys want her to continue?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Okay.
That's
Well,
Yes,
I want to
please.
respect your time. So, okay. So I'm going to add yet another element because I suspect you're not going to use this whole book, but you might find one section of the book really useful. And let's see, I'm going to play the guessing game because they don't actually name the chapters. There we go. Oh, I totally guessed that, I promise. Chapter 2 is about crime scene. And that's really what I'm quoting. I'm not using the whole book. I'm just using this particular section so I can be super specific. So, couple of things you're going to notice. We had, for the entire book, we had these people as authors. But this particular chapter was written by Norman Weston. Okay, so we're going to update this one. And I'm a total cheat. I'm going to copy this. And we're going to play around with it. So first off, we have a new author. So Control C, and I'm moving over here. And I'm getting rid of all that. Paste text only. What? No. That did not work the way I wanted it to. I'll copy it from this side. Let's see if it works. There we go. Okay. So, but it's still set at Norman T. Weston, and MLA is different. What do I need to do?
Last name first.
Okay, so I'm going to highlight the name, last name, drag it over. Think there's a space? Yes. Okay, so Weston, then comma, and then Norman T. Now T is his middle name. I'm going to assume he's a male. I'm totally backwards. I'm sorry, Professor Fernandez. But the period, I don't need 2 periods at this point because it just looks weird. So I can either do one of 2 things. I can just do Norman with a period, or Norman T, period. Okay. So now the title of the source is going to be the chapter this time. So let's go over that. What's the name of the chapter?
The crime scene.
The crime scene.
The crime scene. Right. So, because it doesn't seem to want to let me do that. All right. What do I need to do? Besides just typing it.
Put quotation.
Got it. So quotation marks. What else? Let's take a look back over here. I think I heard someone say period.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So take a look at this. We put the period inside the quotation marks. Okay. So that's just a special little nuance that you have to pay attention to. Keep it inside. Now, we're going to play around a little bit more with the first container. So now the title of the container is the name of the book. What do you think? And let me blow that up for you guys. What do I need to do differently for this container? And let's start with the title of the container. What's wrong? What do I have to fix? Really simple little thing.
You have a period. Oh wait, no, I don't know if that's a period.
Yes, that's a period, and you totally got it right. Yay, bonus points. Okay, so after forensic science, we're no longer going to have a period because we're now talking about the chapter. And so the book is now the container, the first container. So we can keep all of this the same. Everything else is the same. That's it. That's the only difference between a book and a chapter, is just like what the key focal point is. Does that make sense, guys?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Let's do an article now from the web. You ready for this?
Yes.
Let me, hold on, let me, boot, screens. Oh. Nope, not presenting. Control. Sorry, technical brain fart here. I am going to jump back in to chat. Here is the link to the article I'm using, and I'm going to go back and share my screen again. Doop, doop, doop. Okay, so let's take a look at this article. It's coming from the Baltimore Sun. What do you think that is? What type of website would that be?
A news article?
Yes, Baltimore Sun is a newspaper. So if you don't know, you can always kind of dig around, look at the sections, go to their about page. But I'm assuming you've all done that when you found a source, but I just wanted you guys to know. Okay, So the title of this article is Ex-Boyfriend is Charged in Teens Killing. Body of Senior at Woodland High found in Lincoln Park. 18-year-old was strangled. Family of Hae Min Lee says arrest brings some closure. Peace. It was written by Amy Oakes. And it was published March 1st, 1999. Okay. So we've got this wonderful article. Where do we start?
The author?
Okay. Okay. And say that again. Sorry.
The author, Amy Oakes.
Okay. So let's take Amy Oakes here, and I'm going to paste only. There we go. So what do I need to do with Amy's name?
Last name first.
Last name, comma, first name. So let me drag this over, add the comma, and then a period, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then what do we have? What do we do next?
Title of the news.
Title of the article. So I'm just going to copy all this because it looks like that's the title of the article. I'm going to paste it in text only. What do I need to do with the title of the article?
Citation.
So I think I heard somebody say it, but I'm hearing him very quietly.
Oh, quotation.
Yes.
And
All
a
right.
period at the end.
Quotation. See, you've got it. It's just repetition at this point, right? So, period, then end quote. Now we're getting into the container. Because we're getting it in the web, off the web, more than likely, unless it's a database like our ebook database or like Netflix, or maybe you're streaming your podcast through Spotify, you're not likely going to have a second container. Okay, so we'll just have the one container for this article. And what is the title of it? Where are we getting it from?
The Baltimore Sun.
You got it. Okay. And what do I need to do?
Italicize it or italicize it.
Let's do that. Okay. Anything else?
Period.
Are you sure it's a
Oh no,
period?
not a period.
Comma.
A comma.
A comma. Yes. This is the only place where you can have that run-on sentence. Okay. So this is, we're only talking about the Baltimore Sun now. And so that's why we have the commas in the run-on sentence, because I need to be able to go back and find it. And I know it's somewhere in the Baltimore Sun, but what more information can I find out that'll make it easier for me to find it, right? So let's take a look. What other information? We don't have another contributor, so we ignore that. Newspapers typically don't have another version unless you wanted to say it was an electronic article versus a print article, but that's too much for us at this point. We don't have a number, but we don't have a publisher, because I bet the publisher is the Baltimore Sun, unless it's owned by somebody else. Oh my God, it's one of those. Ugh. I hate those types of Websites where they have no end.
Those are the worst.
I hate them. It's like the never-ending story.
Right.
Okay, so about page.
The Tribune Publishing Company.
Oh my God. Okay, so now that I found it, I feel obligated to now put that in.
Sorry.
So we've got a publisher for it. So basically, the publisher, when you think about it, is the company that owns the Baltimore Sun. Okay. But I will tell you, like some newspapers will have this. Others, it'll be like the New York Times is owned by the New York Times, right? So if that ever comes up, then you don't have to say New York Times twice. It's like redundant, like TMI, guys. But when you do have another company owning it, then you probably need to include that just for ethical purposes. Okay, so I'm trying to be an ethical librarian here and teach you all the good things. Okay, so we've got a publisher. What's the next element that we need to put in?
Publication date.
Publication date. You got it. So how are we going to do this? We've got the date underneath the author. So it was March 1st, 1999. At the comma. All right, so let's do the publication date. We start off with what?
The day.
The day. Okay. So it was first. How do we do the month?
MAR.
You got it. And then because it's an abbreviation, we're going to put a period. Now, something I do want to point out because I get a lot of questions about it. Notice how ed is in lowercase. In March, the M is in uppercase. What can you tell me the difference between these two are?
Can you repeat the question?
So I have M in March capitalized. And another abbreviation in another citation, so the addition to the book is not, the E is not, or the D is not capitalized. Do you guys know why that would be the case?
Is it because it's like a like it's a specific like it's a proper noun?
Yes, that's exactly it. So remember, you've got the abbreviation already in the middle of the sentence. So that's why it's not capitalized, but March is a proper name. So we're going to capitalize the M. Good call. All right. And then we have 1999, the year. So I just want to point out, we've got all these crazy commas, and the reason why we format the year, day, month, year, is so that we don't add any more crazy commas and confuse people about all these random numbers. That makes sense?
Yes.
All right. So we have one last bit of the container cookie trail. What is it? Got the publication date.
The link.
The link. You got it. Okay. So I'm going to copy. Now, it's not in a database, so that's why I'm copying it from the address bar. but sometimes you will find like maybe there's multiple share options, and it may have like a permanent link option. I'm not logged in, so it won't help me out there, but typically there'll be like a link share option, and that's where you can get a short URL. And if that's ever possible, you want to go for the short one, just because it saves you page length and it doesn't hurt anybody's eyes as much to look at all that, all the URL. Okay, so I'm going to put that in. Ooh, it did a funky color this time. Okay, so it looks like it's already linked when I pasted it in. What do I need to do?
Add a period.
Okay, so we're closing out that. Anything else?
Take away the HTTPS.
Yes. It's going to start with www. And that's it, guys. You've done your citation for the article. So, temperature check. How are you guys feeling now?
Pretty calm.
Pretty calm? Good. Should we practice a couple more, or do you want to call it a day and we can come back and revisit this on Thursday with others?
That's up to you. I know your time is valuable as well, but I personally appreciate you doing this with it being us, because we're like able to really like focus and plug in with it.
Yeah, I'm happy to do more. It's just your call. So you guys let me know how you're feeling.
I don't have to go anywhere.
Can I just say that you guys are doing really, really well? Like, MLA is not easy. Not that it's difficult, it's just there's a lot of like little pieces floating around, right? But once you understand kind of like the process, like you get it. And you guys are doing so good. I'm really proud of you.
Yeah, you are. I'm really impressed. And like, there are other citation styles that are a lot more stricter. And so like the MLA version is like the loosey-goosey hippie stepchild of citations. So Anna, thank you so much for coming. But yeah, we'll keep practicing and you can come back and see the recording. It's now an hour and a half in. So yeah, MLA is kind of the hippie stepchild that's like easygoing, and like, because if we don't have that information, we just move on to the next bit, which is great. And you don't have to learn any more Latin terminology besides at all.
So Olivia has a question. Her hand is up, and Aiden's hand's up.
Oh yeah, shoot, what is it?
Y'all, either one of y'all can go first. Doesn't matter.
Aiden, you look like you're unmuted, but we're not
Okay,
hearing
I guess I'll go first.
you.
All right, so, sorry, I was trying to ask this earlier,
Oh, I'm
but
sorry.
no, it's okay. Laptop was completely frozen. So, for the publication date, if there is also a time, should I put the time there as well, or should I just leave it just to the date?
Yes. Okay. So this is like nerding out even more. So yes, you can. If you have it, absolutely. But it's sort of like a temperature gauge, like a newspaper article, not always necessary unless it's one of those that it comes out at any moment instead of like at certain times of the day.
Right. Okay.
Think of Twitter. We're now using Twitter to like always quote the president right now, right? So having that timestamp makes it so much easier to go back and find that particular tweet. Or say you're only using a certain portion of a video, like a documentary, but you only want this little piece of it. You'd put the timestamp for where it starts so that it makes it easier for us to go back and find it. So yes, absolutely. If you have a timestamp, use it.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I have one more question for Professor Fernandez. One of the articles I think we're supposed to find for our assignment for making our citation list, it says to find a video called Adnan Syed in court on April 19th, 2019, or posted on April 19th, 2019, and I could not find anything on the 19th.
I think that was the one where the date was wrong.
Yes, I found one on the 9th.
Yeah, it's that one, the one on the 9th. I
Okay.
I think I put 19th on the page, but it's the 9th, something like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Insomnia, man. Sorry.
Okay.
See?
But I will fix it. I will fix it. Yes.
And that's why creating that cookie trail is helpful, because the more elements you have, the easier it is to find sometimes.
Jennifer has. Oh, Aiden, are you done?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
I think Olivia has had her hand up too.
Yeah. Olivia, what you got?
Okay, so actually I have two questions. The first one is, one of the things we were supposed to find for our citation was a call log, which I found one from the serial like website and stuff, but there's like no author or like nothing to like cite for that. So I like looked up some MLA stuff to like try to figure it out, and there was stuff with like the copyright date, put that on there, and the title and everything, and I was just super confused on how I would cite that, because I wasn't sure if they were correct about that, because like I tried to look at some other stuff and it was just like overall really confusing for me.
So I'm sorry, I may have missed that because my computer was making funny noises. What from the website were you trying to use?
The call log for Adnan Syed's case.
Do you have?
But it was
Do you want to share that with us, and we can actually practice that one if you want?
Let me find the link.
Okay.
Might take me a second, but I should be able.
And I'm changing the date to the other video. That's the one on the 9th. That's the 19th. What am I changing it to, Aiden? I'm changing, it's the same month, same year, it's just the date, right? It says 9, but I think it's 19, something like that. I'll figure it out.
And Jennifer asked, while Olivia's looking for the link, Jennifer asked, is there ever a time that you can put too much information in a citation?
She's asking the two MLA nerds this question. You understand this, right?
Okay. So, I do have examples. So, say you are quoting or citing a film. Do you really need every actor listed? Either in the author section or other contributors? No, right? So think of it that way. Make it a judgment call on yourself. Like, are we actually quoting or talking about this actor's performance? Because that could also change then we're talking about this person being like the author because it's more of the performance bit, or maybe it's the director and the director needs to be in that author section, right? So, and then if the other contributors are important because it's part of the film and part of the context of what you're talking about, absolutely. But then if it's not, then it's too much information and you can just get rid of it. Does that make sense, Jennifer?
It does. Thank you.
You're
I just wasn't sure because sometimes I know I can overtalk or overdo things. So I'm like, I wasn't sure in this instance, is that also even a possibility?
Yes.
But I do also have another question too. On the citations, when you're having to put it in alphabetical order,
Mhm.
I know it's, by the author, but if it's like, for example, the YouTube video, is it going to be the name of the video or the person that uploaded it, or what part of that would you use to put it in the alphabetical order?
Well, I would, if you would use the person's name, the account name, because typically that would be the author, the creator of the information, unless they're stealing it from a copyrighted source. But in theory, if they created the video, then they're the author. So you would put them first, and it would be the last name, comma, first name. Or if they don't, if it's just like Beyonce, right? Beyonce, we don't, her show name is Beyonce. So it would just be Beyonce, right? Or the
Right.
National Institute of Health. You wouldn't put health, comma, National Institute, right? It would just be National Institute of Health. So the N would be the letter that you would start in the alphabetical order.
Okay, like for example, like the Aiden was talking about that Adnan goes to court, that it was uploaded by Bond Court. So then Bond Court would be the order we use for the citation, the worksite page?
Yeah.
For the alphabetical part? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
And there's a tool in Word that you can put it in alphabetical order. I'm trying to see it. On the desktop version there is, but I'm not seeing it on the Office 365 version. Huh, interesting. So you can always download the desktop version and it will be in the home section next to editing. No. It's I think it's in paragraph section. And it's just A to Z. It's a little icon that says A to Z. And you click on it after you've highlighted all your citations and it will do the work for you. It's wonderful. Unless
I see it now. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is by the little paragraph. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good to know.
But if you don't have an author and so it's just the article, because the quotation mark is first, it's going to move the quotation mark to like be before the A's. It's not smart. So you may have to do some copying and pasting or dragging if you do have that circumstance. But for everything else, you don't have to sing your ABCs.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, Olivia found the timeline. Okay. Let me open this up. Are you guys seeing the timeline for the call log?
Yes.
Okay. So let's go through this. Now, who created this call log?
Would it be American Life, the creators of Serial? Or?
Yes, but who's the lady? What's the lady's name?
Sarah Koenig.
Okay, so, because I can't remember how to spell her name.
But if even though she was like the narrator and everything, she had other people like edit and create things. So if she, how do we know that she was the one that actually made the call log?
Good question. Well, I guess you can approach it two different ways. And Professor Fernandez, correct me if you have differing opinions. So one way we could approach it is by having Sarah as being like the primary person. And then we can just make the assumption that there's a whole team and there's more than two of them. And so we could say Koning, comma, Sarah, comma, et al. And everybody. Or we could say Serial as the author in general, just to be vague. Do you have a preference, Professor Fernandez?
Ooh, this is why me and you are MLA nerds right here.
Yeah.
Because I would have not even put an author on this.
Really?
I would have not put an author. I would have started with the title.
Because that's another option. See, there's a third option.
There's like 3 options here, guys. This is what makes MLA so fun and infuriating.
Yeah.
But all of them could be right, though.
Yeah.
I could see all 3 of them being correct, because if you're listening to the podcast and you know Sarah Koning's the head of this, then you could do Sarah Koning. If you know, and everybody knows that she's working with the team, you can do the et al. But if you don't see like an author, you could just start with cell phone call log. Either way. Ha ha! Fun. So either way, I would not count off. Well, it's a practice, so I'm not counting off or anything. But I wouldn't mind either one of those. Doesn't answer anything. I'm so sorry.
So what would you do if you were doing the assignment and you're turning it in? What would you choose?
If I was a student, knowing what I know, I probably would skip author and go straight to title.
All right.
Shared another link. Unless I know something different. Okay, cool. All right, it's the same thing. Yeah, that's what I would do. But again, as a professor, I would count all of them. Again, guys, this is practice.
Mm-hmm.
Letting you know, it's practice. So like, if you get something wrong, it's fine. It's just practice.
And that's why MLA, I call it the hippie stepchild, because it's really loosey-goosey and based on interpretation sometimes. So just like Professor Fernandez and I had like different ways of approaching it, like I can tell you, one librarian and myself will we'll come up with different things too. So sometimes I leave, most of the time when it's really kind of in those vague situations, always ask Professor Fernandez what her preference is, because she's grading you. Okay. So.
And I shall pass the judgment on all your work. But we can also, yes, definitely ask me, but we can also talk about it too. Because if you're like, you said to start with the title, but I kind of feel like we should be an author, and then we can talk about it. And you can argue me down. I'm cool with it.
So, proceeding with this citation. So we've got the title of the source, which is in quotation marks. So, cell phone call log. And so it's in quotation marks. We've got the period, but before the closing quotation marks. Then we're going to do the title of the container bit. So it is housed in serial, right? That's the name of where it's being housed. I'm not seeing any dates for when this was produced. I'm not seeing, you could put Sarah Koenig in as a contributor if you really felt like it, but it's not necessary at all. We don't have any versions. We don't have any numbers. Is serial, yes, okay. So let me stop there and we will put serial in. So I've got that in quotation marks. We have another publisher. Serial is part of This American Life. Okay, so sometimes you have to look down at the bottom here or go to the About page. Let's see. Oh, look, produced in collaboration with WEZ Chicago, right? So I was actually wrong, even though it says in the copyright line, This American Life, the real, sorry. It's in collaboration with it. So we could actually have two, This American Life and WEZ Chicago. Because MLA isn't confusing enough. All right, so let me just paste all this in and I'll fix it. When you have two publishers, because it does happen, and this is just a quirky bit about it, just put in a / and leave it like that, because it's a collaboration. Yeah. See, it's all about interpretation. It really, yeah. Yes. Okay, so we've got the publisher. There isn't a publication date that I could find, unless you guys found something. But we have a location, right? So I'm not seeing any permanent link options. So, oh God, it's right here. If I actually look, I'm sorry, guys. I'll admit I haven't had food since breakfast. So there we go. I'm going to copy the URL. It is right there. I did see it after all on the page. If I looked to my right, I'm going to put the URL in. It's really nice. It actually linked it automatically. I'm going to add that period at the end. And I'm going to get rid of the HTTP. And because www isn't even part of it, that's okay. We just leave it at serialpodcast.org. And there you have it. Your citation right here. I think I created more questions and like, what the hell did she do?
I think the big so while I was going through, I didn't know, admit as your professor, didn't know about the slash with the collaboration, because I would have just put This American Life there. But I was just like, because you always hear it, and I'm just like, you know what, that is a collaboration. So this entire time I've been thinking about it wrong. It's This American Life and WBEZ Chicago. So there you go. I've learned something new.
And I only know this because I had a debate with another librarian and we had to look it up.
Oh, wow.
I was wrong, and so I'm humbly telling you that's what I learned.
Yes. Okay.
See, it's yes.
Okay, so I know that for next time. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Olivia has a question. She has all the questions. I would have all the questions too, Olivia. Go for it, girl. Go for it.
So this will have to go with the call log, but I was also wondering about the access number and if we have to put that on each citation or if we put it on one, if we have to put it on all of them, and how that goes. Or if you don't want us to put in an access number at all.
I barely heard that. You were going in and out. Something about an access number.
Yeah. Yeah. So like the date that
the access
like we find it. I read that.
Oh.
I wasn't sure if
that is old school. You don't need to do that unless your instructor is like totally in need of it.
I don't want it.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, that is an old, like a previous edition of MLA. And it says in the manual that you can, but it's not necessary, and it goes at the very end of your citation. So after your first or second container, whatever the last one is, you'd put it there.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Make sure you ask. I don't want it. I don't care when you access this. I don't care. But make sure in future, right? Maybe you don't have 1302 with me, and you have to take why would you not take 1302 with me, by the way? But maybe you have someone else and another professor could want the access date. So make sure you ask that of your professor in the future. This professor doesn't care at all. Others may.
I mean, I could see the relevance if like you're on a website that changes all the time, then it could be useful. I'm trying to think of an example.
So if we had YouTube, because like videos can like come down and go up whenever they want, so would that be an example that we would have to use one?
Not necessarily, because I think for the most part we like to believe that it's a stable platform and people typically don't want to remove their videos unless they're doing something illegal or changing consciousness about what they've posted. Kind of like with Twitter, we don't need to do an access date because it's timestamped. I think one time you might want to do an access date is like if you have a specific no, I don't have any examples.
I don't either. Because even for YouTube, right? If you hear anything about the beauty community, people are constantly taking down videos because they talk about everybody behind their backs, right? And it's beautiful tea to watch when you want to feel really good about your life choices, by the way. And even then, someone will save the video. You can see, I mean, that would be another source, right? So other than a professor needing to know the access, or, sometimes a professor can say, like, I want to see the access, and Joe, to see if you did this over a period of time, or if you've done this in the last 2 days. I can see why they would want to do that. But I can't think of a reason to actually have it there other than the professor wants to see, as of right now. That may change in 2 days. I even said, what about for Wikipedia pages? Access dates for Wikipedia pages.
So, okay, yes, that is a point, but I'm going to counter that with, why would you want to cite a Wikipedia page?
Right.
I would use that as a reference starting point, but we typically don't cite our references, like the background information, because that's typically considered general knowledge. Not quite general knowledge, but it's sort of like the baseline information. And what you should be doing is going into their further reads or references at the bottom and linking, using those sources rather than the Wikipedia page itself.
I agree.
Use the sources, use the list of sources, but you would want to cite those sources rather than the Wikipedia page. Like, go to those specific sources and use them.
I look at Wikipedia. Wikipedia is great if you need like quick information. Like, I'm not gonna down Wikipedia because some of the stuff on Wikipedia is really, really good. However, I would prefer you not use Wikipedia for any of your papers for this class because it could change like this. You don't know who's changing what and for what reason. But if you want to take it with a grain of salt and you see something on Wikipedia, you're like, oh, this is interesting. What I would do if I were you guys, I would make sure that I could find that same information somewhere else, get another source to just verify it, and I would cite that source. I wouldn't cite Wikipedia, I would cite that source.
Yes.
That's what I would do. Again, Wikipedia can be great, but it could also be misleading. Like, people change stuff like that all the time. If you've seen The Masked Singer, I swear to you guys, they be changing the Wikipedia pages for those people who are singing. Like, right before. Like, seriously, you could change them at any time. So there you go.
Yeah. So I think it's gotten better, especially the quality of the content on Wikipedia. But when I was a student, and I'm not going to tell you how many years ago that was, and Wikipedia did exist back then, instructors would go in the night before and change the Wikipedia pages for subjects that they were teaching, so that when the students took the exam the next day, if they used Wikipedia instead of their course material as a study tool, they would know automatically. Like, some instructors are just jerks, okay? That's what I'm trying to say. And you will find that some instructors are going to say absolutely no Wikipedia. So I want you guys to just get it in your head that there is a hierarchy that our academic system has in terms of the type of information. And while Wikipedia is good, it's only good for a certain part of your research process. And it's really good for that starting bit. And just like if you were pulling up a book and there's a quote in here that you really want to use, typically you want to go back and find that where they got that quote and find the original source and cite that, not the book where you originally found it. So it's the same idea with Wikipedia. You want to go find that original content and use it rather than Wikipedia. I'm making faces and I'm sorry. You can't see me, but I'm making faces, funny faces, awkward, like, yeah, that's where we're at.
So can you guys put in the chat box how you guys are feeling about MLA right now? Up, down, happy face, sad face. Give me an emoji. Give us both an emoji.
Yay! Awesome.
Oh, yes.
Okay. So I'm giving you a link to the library website. We've got a chat system. So as long as a librarian in the entire Lone Star system is online, they will be on chat. You can ask them a question. I think the only times that there might not be a librarian is like from 9 at night to 7 in the morning. So like, think of it, most business hours, we're on it. Okay, so you can chat with us that way. You can email us and we will email you back within like business hours as well. But you can also schedule a WebEx appointment with us so we can work with you one-on-one over and do screenshot sharing and do all sorts of stuff and help you with your citations or with your research, whatever you need help with. And in a couple of weeks, offer that same option in the Learning Commons with social distancing. Only, limited hours, but it's by appointment as well. So you're the first people to know about that.
Exclusive
News release.
Olivia's still a little worried about MLA. What's worrying you, Olivia?
Sorry, I was having a little hard time trying to get my mic unmuted. I wouldn't say that I'm necessarily worried. I just feel like there's a lot of like, okay, this is how MLA is, except for this, or if it's like this, then maybe it's like this, and it's just like, I'm just like, oh my gosh. But I wouldn't say I'm worried. I feel like I get the main point of it. I think I'm just like, I don't know, like flabbergasted. I'm just like, okay, like, I don't know.
A lot of critical thinking in MLA, lady.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I believe in you. I think you can get. I mean, I think you're on your way for sure on getting this. It's just a matter of just thinking it through and asking questions.
Yeah. And just know that you have support teams there to help you. We really are willing to bounce ideas off of with you and help you out. So, don't hesitate to ask. That's why we're here. Our goal is to help you be successful. Doesn't mean I will give you the entire answer. We will work through it and figure it out together. But I'll make you work for it. We're about learning, right?
All right. Does anyone have any more questions? Well, we did a solid 2 hours today.
Yes, it was awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for staying past your time, Miss Mitchell. I really appreciate it.
Oh, I'm happy to.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
you're welcome. On Thursday, I will have different sources.
Dun, dun, dun.
I'm not sure I'm going to stick with the classic ones. I'm going to go with the more complicated ones, I think. And we'll play around.
That would be great. Yeah, that's a great idea. I like how you think.
I'm going to assume everybody's going to watch this recording, and then we'll go from there.
Didn't I tell you she was awesome?
Yes, thank you. Like maybe Thursday too could be helpful to do more like with the YouTube videos or something to that aspect, because that's a thing with MLA. The spectrum is just so broad that to try to pinpoint which is the most one, the most to focus on is kind of hard. So I do appreciate everything that you did share with us. It just takes a lot of the anxiety away, so that I thank you. And I'm sure my family thanks you for that too.
Yes. Don't stress. We're here to help for sure. So yeah, don't worry about it. Bring together a list of sources and we'll go through as many as we can on Thursday, and we'll just keep practicing. How about that?
Sounds great. We'll see you on Thursday for sure.
All right.
With bells on at 3 p.m.
And guys, that's why you have a practice, right? That's why you got 2 weeks to practice the thing, right? You had 10 of these sources. So you had all this practice before I even let you loose on the compare and contrast essay, which is where you will use sources. So you had to practice last week for the discussion board. You have to practice that's over 2 weeks with this 10 sources thing, right? You have this, you have me, you have Mikha, you have inquisitive. Oh, I need to show Mikha inquisitive, because that inquisitive on MLA was hard. It was hard. It really is. But once you get it though. So you have all these sources, all these resources. Use us. We're here for you. We're here for you.
Yeah.
Not to sound like the AA program, but it'll work if you work it.
Yes.
Yes. All right, guys. If there's no more questions, we will see you probably on Thursday if y'all come back. If not, then I think this will be up very soon. Like it saves on me on Teams. So if you want to go back and review it, you can. Let me know what you guys need. If you have any additional questions that you just want to give Mikha a heads up and say, hey, I'm going to be asking this question on Thursday. You can send it to me, or you can just send it to Mikha. It's perfectly fine. But I'm excited to see what Thursday brings. Yeah?
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
And you don't have to send it to me ahead of time. You can just watch me. Hopefully I won't have my mask on, and you'll see the various emotions going across my face as I try to resolve this problem. So you can see oh my God, what am I trying to do now? It's normal. And even if you call me an expert, I do it all the time too. So your emotions are valid. I understand them.
Yeah.
Thank you, Adolfo, for telling her about the date. Good call.
Thank you. I fixed it, by the way. They're all fixed. All right. If there's no more questions, going once, going twice. All right. Have a great day. Have a great week. I will see you on Thursday, maybe, possibly. Email is there. Office hours are real. And here we go. All right, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, Professor Fernandez, I have
Yeah.
a question, but I mean, everybody can go. I don't want to keep everybody because I know me and my
Right up
questions will
the
be here all
line.
day. So, yeah, I know. So, but you, young lady, I'm kidding.
Yes,
But
ma'am.
I do have, yes, I do have some questions for you.
Okay. Do you want to wait around after everybody gets off?
They can, yeah. I don't know, what they got going on. So, I mean, they're welcome to stay or welcome to leave, whatever
Well, girl, ask your questions then.
Like a dodo, I turned in the practice. So should I can I redo it or
Yes,
look at it
ma'am.
again?
It's still open.
Okay, that was the one thing because I don't know why I was thinking it had to be turned in. So I was trying to,
No, you have
to
2
finish
months.
it. Okay, that sounds great.
Yeah.
And then when you were talking about the pronouns, like on the response essays, are we going to be counted off if we did use
Nah.
next to he or him? Okay, just so that we'll know going forward, basically. Got it. Okay, because I was like, oh snap, there went my grade.
No, I mean, we're all still learning, right? It's your first essay. So
Right.
for some of y'all, it's your first college essay. So we're still learning.
Okay. And
but
then when I
learn by the research paper though.
right, no, for sure, yes. I was reviewing the notes about what meant what on the the critique and all that, so that was helpful, that
Cool.
form. And then I didn't really quite catch Olivia's question when she was talking about the deal with Asia and Jay, and when she was talking about the beginning, when you were saying about do you remember that far back?
Yes, kinda. Yes, because she was talking about and Olivia, correct me if I'm wrong. She was talking about the titles of the pieces of the articles and whatnot, and putting them in the introduction paragraph, right? And it's specifically for this particular essay. And so the answer I gave was something along the lines of, you can say, in this article by such and such, then finish the sentence. Ooh, excuse me. And in this article by such and such, finish the sentence. Because it's not part of your thesis, right? Those articles aren't part of your thesis statement.
Oh, okay.
I also said that right now you have an overview of the essay. Right now you have these are what the basic moving parts of the essay are. What you don't have, and you won't get till next week, are this is what the thesis is, and this is how you put this bad boy together. This is how it ties back to your structure. These are the structures. Da-da-da. And so when you see the thesis and the structure and how it all melds together, then you'll say, oh, that's why it's not in the thesis statement. This is why it has to go in the intro paragraph and whatnot. So right now you just have an overview. You have enough information right now to be really dangerous. I personally would not start this essay this week at all. I'd wait till next week.
Oh no, for sure. But that was good. I'm glad Olivia asked that, so that way, because sometimes you might think of something, or sometimes you don't even know what questions to ask. So
Right,
when you hear others ask questions, you're like, oh, kind of like a domino effect. It gets your brain going to ask another question and go on from there. So
right, and you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly,
Right.
and that's why we're here. So I do
Yeah,
appreciate all your inspirational and your motivational stuff, because there's times that you just want to be like, ah.
No,
Anyway, yeah.
here's the thing, it's with all things in college, right? It's you've transitioned from either high school or not being in school for a while, and all of a sudden you're dropped into this world with all these rules and all these measurements, and it can make your head spin. It really, really can. So it's okay to be confused. It's okay to ask questions over and over and over again, until you get it. And that's the whole thing, because a lot of what college is a lot of it's knowledge, right? There's, I would say 70% is knowledge, what you learn in the actual classroom, from books, whatever. The other 30 to 40% is what you learn by persevering, what you learned that's not part of the class, how to study, how to ask questions, how to approach an assignment, how to take care of yourself through college. So keep that in mind as well. Everything's a lesson. It may not be a formal lesson like in a module, but everything's a lesson. That was deep.
That was a good point. Yeah, I know. That's why I think. Yeah, because that's me. I mean, I graduated high school in '95, and I did go to business school, and I mean, here I was working in corporate America, doing human resources and what have you. So to start over is like what you said. There's so many new roles and so many new things to just be bombarded with, but it's just kind of like kicking layer by layer. So I do appreciate your patience.
No problem. It's what I'm here for. Now, 1302 gets no patience. Those bad boys have been in school for a semester. Let's go. Vámonos. I'm a little patient with them. Not as much as I am with you guys, but I'm a little patient. I expect y'all to go, but it's okay. Any other questions, guys? You guys did really good today. I'm really proud of you guys.
It was a really good class. It was like good meat, it was like really good sustenance. So I hate that the people that missed it, but at the same time, it was kind of neat to kind of just focus on what was at hand. So that was neat. And another thing too, I'm looking forward to the next write-in. That's going to be awesome.
Yeah, the next write-in. Did I schedule it for you guys? I did schedule it for you guys, right? I did say there's going to be a write-in. I just haven't put the date yet.
24th. Yes, no, you did. Yeah.
Okay. It's like 2 weeks before the papers due, I think.
Or something like that, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. So that's going to be good. Yay. And I'm glad you guys liked the write-ins. I wasn't quite sure if that was going to work.
Oh, no, that was perfect. Because, I mean, the way everybody fed off of each other, the questions and the feedback and, what everybody was kind of like thinking, somebody else was going through it. So yeah, it was awesome. So thank you for doing that.
No problem. All right, friends. It's dinner time. It's dinner. Well, actually, technically, that would be my lunch. It's lunchtime. So I will see you guys later. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.